We are now on page 15 of our working file, the subject of sizing, or we could call it resizing if you like. Well, basically, whenever you select an object, whether it be a bit piece of text or an object down here, on the property bar here, varying properties about that object will be displayed. In this case, we can see the typeface point size, but we can also see the horizontal link and height, so 100 mm wide, which is about 4 inches, and 25 mm high, which is about 1 inch. We can manually type some values in here if we need to, or the way you will work most of the time is to work with the options you can see here, and that is that you select your object and the resizing handles appear around the outside. There are two types. In each corner we have the scaling handles. In other words, if I click on one of those corner handles and I begin to drag out or inward, as you can see, the piece of text is resizing perfectly. In other words, the relationship between the horizontal and vertical remains the same. We are just sizing up or sizing down. We don't lose proportion. Now, you will notice as I'm dragging on the handle that the object is anchored at the opposite corner. So if I select this handle, click and drag, you can see that the object is anchored in that corner there. So always remember, the opposite corner will remain fixed and you will resize out from that corner. We can change the anchor point by using this option here, Shift. If I want to make the anchor point center, I will simply put my finger on the Shift key, and now you can see it. It's fixed in the center, and I am resizing or scaling up or down from the center. Okay? And that can be quite handy to use. Okay, if I want to, I can type our value and add up here. Now it's very important that if I want to keep the perfect scaling, the perfect relationship between horizontal and vertical, I must turn the lock on, the lock ratio. If I don't, I will type in a value in here. So I type 100, hit enter. As you can see, it's simply stretched horizontally, so now it is not a longer proportion. So I will Control Z and undo that. However, if I turn that little lock on and now I type a value in all 100, hit enter, as you can see, I returned back to that relationship we started with, 100 wide by 25 mm high. It's pretty important to remember that one. Well, that's perfect scaling. Okay, now what I will do is I will shrink this down a little just to help you see what I am about to show you. Constrains allows you, if you hold your finger on Control, stretch out, it'll do nothing until you exactly double the size and again exactly double the size. So, constraining two perfect double sizes, okay? Just remember that. That's quite handy as well. Well, moving on, looking at the other handles. We have side handles. Well, of course, these do the obvious thing, and that is the stretch horizontally, so the fixed point is the other side, the anchor point, and as we stretch out, we are just simply stretching horizontally. Notice on the property bar, only the horizontal value changes. That, of course, is the same for both sizes. So I should say the outside is always the opposite side as anchor. Well, the same applies in the vertical, of course. The opposite side is anchored, and we can resize vertically. Well, of course, don't forget that these two options here do apply as well. So if I want to fix my anchor point in the middle, in fact, why don't we just undo that? Control Z until I get back to my perfect scale, which I want to do. Now, from the center, if I put my finger on Shift and use a side handle, you can see it's now anchored in the center. Looks a bit like a squeeze box when we do that way, doesn't it? Now, in the same fashion, I will move this over here. Constrain whites until you are double size. So finger on Control, and as it has doubled the size, it snaps to double that size. Okay? So just remember that. Now finally, if I grab this object here or pop that out there out of the way, I will grab the ship, and I will also grab what I call the time tunnel. What we have here is an object that is actually a blend of two basic objects. So if I go to view in simple wireframe mode, as you can see, there is one ellipse on top and one ellipse underneath and a whole range of ellipses. We will go back to wireframe. A whole range of ellipses are then drawn by using a special effect to create a final result. So effectively, there are two objects here. I can click in the middle and I can resize the whole object exactly how we had just learned. Or what I can do is to select just the top object and resize that, and that affects the look of the time tunnel, as you can see. Just like that. Now if you want to select the bottom one, draw a marquee right on the bottom one. Move that where you want. I will put my finger on the Shift key and resize that right out, and as you can see, I can play with that and do all sorts of things. So what I want you to do is select this object, and you may find you want to squeeze something like that down. Push it in there a little bit, stick it on top. I can actually make the ship look like it's coming outside of the time tunnel. So go ahead and play with that. Also, if you feel free on the property bar, type in some scaling values. So, for example, if I were to scale it to 100% with the lock on, hit enter. That's what my ship would look like. Control Z, I will just undo that. Play with that and move on to the next lesson.